Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. We're your guides through sordid tales of movies, music, and pop culture. Our show is best experienced under the influence of cannabis, so now is your cue to light up. Now remember, drugs are dangerous. Please use responsibly, but do subscribe. And now your hosts, James Thomas and David Hawk.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mile High Podcast. I am one of your hosts, James Castlaw, and with me James Thomas, and with me as always is my buddy Dave. I gave you the whole name. It's on my Zoom already. I didn't update it, so now you know.
Yeah, well, you were always concerned about giving people your address, and so now literally they know who you are,
Right.
your zip code, where you grew up.
They have it all. Not like they can't see it if they subscribe to us on Facebook. So, welcome. It is September 11th, 2020. We are still locked in everything, but on September 11th, we must do what we've done for the last 19 years, and it is remember and honor those who lost their lives in the Twin Towers falling. And so here's our moment of silence. Topical thing before we discuss the other thing, but I will point out that 200,000 people have lost their life this year to a COVID vaccine, which is 65 more times more people than died on September 11th. While we respect everything they do and everything, we have a real thing that we need to focus on. We'll definitely get into that later in the subject, but I'm going to use that as a lead for what I'm going to say next, which is if you like your podcast politically passive or apolitical, tonight may not be the best time to listen to this particular podcast. We very much are apolitical most of the time, but we are talking current events. So if you don't want to know what we think, or you're afraid that it's going to change your opinion on us, because we all have opinions, by all means, we have a lot of other material. Go watch one of the old podcasts. Go listen to James's games. Go check out Santori What Now? Because tonight we're going to talk about some serious stuff, and not everybody's going to like what you have to say. With that said, we're going to start the show, and what's up, Dave? Like, I did all the announcements, so now we can just talk.
You took the words right out of my mouth. No, yeah, usually we go to great lengths to make our shows really non-political, because we have political shows for that. But current events, it's hard to be apolitical when you're talking current events. But also try, because we're not just strictly talking politics tonight. We're talking about just kind of the state of the world, and it's hard to dance around politics, but we'll do our best.
Right. Some of those things are hard to separate. And when I realized this was a show we were doing, I didn't realize. I was like, oh, it's on September 11th. How accurate for that. But before we get there, let's do some fun things. Let's knock some of our fun things out of the way. Dave, tell me about something that you've watched over the past couple of weeks since we talked that you want to talk about.
Yeah, so when James and I were planning the show, we kind of talked about we both watched a bunch of stuff, but this is going to be kind of a more serious show. So I said, let's watch something that's uplifting and wholesome and not too dark. And so I watched a couple really great things that are excellent for the spirit, wholesome. The first of which is a movie on Netflix. It's a documentary called The Speed Cubers. And it's about a pair of world record holder Rubik's Cube competitors. One of which has autism. He's this kid named Max Park from America, from the USA, and his rival is this dude from Australia named Felix Zendig. And you think that they're rivals, and so they kind of wouldn't bond or anything, but because that Max Park kid, he's autistic, he really looks up to the Felix Zendig, and the Australian kid really took him under his wing, and so it's not even really a rivalry. It's just a couple of friends that are competitively Speed Cubing. It's a
Nice.
fascinating movie. It's like 45 minutes, real short, but it really makes you feel good. And the other one, maybe you'll talk about this too, is another docuseries on Netflix called High Score. It's basically the history of video games, and
Right.
I, love it. It's great.
It's a good series. It's I would say one of the things, and I've only watched the first episode, but it's not what you think you're going to get with a video game documentary. It's a very in-depth documentary, and it's telling the stories that are not constantly part of the lore. It's not just talking to Miyamoto.
Yeah, and they also talk about some of the competitions. Like a lot of these video games had competitions, and they'll follow someone who competed and won that particular contest. I thought that was a pretty.
I actually went to I saw the one of the videos of the Nintendo competitions, and I actually went to one of those at the the Denver Convention Center, like a long time ago, where part of the challenge that we had to do is it was Super Mario Brothers 3. It was basically the Wizard Challenge. How fast can you get this done to move on to the next level and everything. It was a lot of fun. My dad and I went on stage, and we did Super Spike Volleyball on a big screen to try to win the game. We didn't win the game, but of course, because we did it on stage, we went up and bought it. So
you were legitimately one of the best video game players growing up that I knew. Like, we have this other friend that lives a couple down, like right in between both James and I when we were growing up. That dude ended up being like a legit full-time gamer. Maybe not professionally, but he plays video games from dawn till dusk. But James, growing up, he was fucking legit a great video game player. Super Mario Brothers. I remember playing Zelda, and you were fucking killing it on Zelda. So huge kudos to you and your Super Nintendo and your Nintendo skills there.
Yeah, no, they definitely haven't carried on into future gaming systems. I'm like that old guy now. They're like, why do you need more than 2 buttons? 2 buttons are all you ever needed. I could do this with an A and a B button. But yeah, no, I could beat Super Mario Brothers 3 in 9 minutes, I think.
That's crazy.
9 to 11 is the 9/11. Strange.
That is my favorite video game of all time. Well,
it's
and
a great
will
game.
all forever be.
It's a great game. You know what, Mario 64 though, I think it really challenges it. Mario 64 is a well-designed game compared to what I thought when I first played it. When I first started playing it, but that's because you were getting into the controller. That was analog time. You know what I mean? Like, analogs were not our main controllers. You had them on the PlayStations, but they were useless on the PlayStation unless you were driving or playing a sports-based game.
Yeah, what's cool is this is Mario's 35th anniversary, and so Nintendo is going to re-release Mario 64 for the Switch. That should be out in the next couple weeks, actually.
Nice. Yeah, no, so those are a couple good ones. So the 2 things I will bring up before we get deep into our discussion of pop culture or current events. The 2 things I would talk about is I absolutely, on the first day that I could buy it, I bought Bill and Ted's Face the Music because I am a Bill and Ted's fan, to the point that I got to be honest, the other day I turned on Excellent Adventure after I'd watched Face the Music, and I started doing things around the house. And I came to the realization that, like, by just the audio of what's happening, I know the next lines. It's one of those movies that I know extremely well that I didn't think I knew as well as I know it. And I know it extremely well. But Face the Music was good. It was, our friend DW does not agree with me. I know the problems he has with that movie. Bill and Ted is growing up, man. They're 24 years older than when they made the movie the last time, so they're going to seem a little older. If you can get past that, I think it's a good movie. I definitely recommend watching it when you can, buying it if you choose to. I bought it with a package through Xfinity, and so I got the other 2 movies because I was like, well, what the hell? To buy it right now is $24. To buy it with the 2 movies on it was $32. I was like, well, shit, I'll have all 3 of the movies. So that was a good one. And I will say I also saw a docuseries, which I don't know if it's good or not as far as like passively happy things. But I watched Class Action Park on HBO Max, and it's the story of Action Park in New Jersey, one of my former homes, which is just a horrible theme park. A theme park ran rampant without any kind of rules, without any kind of insurance, with ideas supported by a crazy man who pretty much let anybody do what they wanted to do, which very 80s. It's very the time that we grew up. It was lock key kids. They said it was pretty much ran by teenagers. Class Action Park is a great, worthwhile documentary to learn about that park a little bit, but to really remember those of us who are latchkey kids and who remember the 80s. It is right before we realized that regulations were important. And so, it's just fun. It reminds you of the past, or at least it did to me. So
awesome. Yeah, I really want to see that documentary. But for some reason, Amazon hasn't worked out all the details with HBO, so I don't have HBO Max or the Peacock, and I'm dying to see the Psych movie, and that's only on the Peacock.
See, and I have Peacock with because I have Xfinity. They just gave it to me with it. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with Amazon and HBO Max. HBO Max is great. A show we will talk about at another time is Lovecraft Country, which you're able to watch through HBO Max. Absolutely wonderful show. Probably one of the best shows I've seen this year.
So, funny story about that. I'm in the middle. Like, I'm literally hit halfway point of this horror novel that I'm writing. And I had come up with this idea like 5 years ago. I even wrote a screenplay. And so I'm turning the screenplay into a book. And it's about a certain thing called A Sundown Town. And it's a horror movie. And I got my inspiration from the Sundown Town from listening to a last podcast on the left, and they talked about sundown towns.
Right.
And if you don't know what that is, James, I know you do because you watch Lovecraft Country.
And I'm from the South.
Yeah, and you're from the South. Yeah, so basically, if you're an African American, it's a town that you don't want to be after sundown because it will be very dangerous for you. And so I put in this supernatural element into it. It's really fucking good. It's really fucking scary. And then I hear everybody talking about this Lovecraft Country, and they're talking about, yeah, man, it's first episode set in this sundown town, and it has this particular supernatural element happening. I'm like, what the fuck? That's like really similar to my story. So I am purposely not watching it, so I have plausible deniability. If anybody's like, it's pretty similar to Lovecraft Country.
Nice. Okay, that's cool. You already have it written, right?
I'm halfway there. I have the screenplay, and I'm halfway done with the actual novelization part of it.
When you're done as a writer and as a critiquer of film and television, you will absolutely love it. And history, you like history. It has all the things that you like. It's one of those things that I would tell you. I watch a lot of suspense and horror and bases like that. And very often I can tell you what's going on before it happens. You know what I mean? Like I know, this is what it's trying to do. This is a good enough show that I am catching onto what I need to catch onto at the exact moment I need to catch onto it. For someone who follows stories and pop culture and things like that, like me, for me to catch onto it right when I'm supposed to is a huge excitement for me. I'm like, you've weaved a well enough story that as the characters are figuring it out, I'm figuring it out, instead of because you played the same kind of narrative games, we can figure out what's going to happen 10 steps before. So
I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, no, definitely worthwhile. HBO Max, man, it's pretty solid. It has Doctor Who and Harley Quinn. I mean, that's enough.
Nothing but good stuff about Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn's amazing. It's the best cartoon show. It may be the best, and I love DC on CW. It's maybe the best DC thing that's on television at the moment. It is. Awesome. Yeah, it is.
Gotta feed this next week, because next week we're talking about cartoons.
See, and that'll be perfect. And because it's an adult base, it'll be interesting. So we're going to talk about what we're smoking, and then we're going to go into That stuff that nobody always wants to hear about, the tough, scary stuff about the world that we try to deny. I am smoking sour cookies, which is sativa, of course. Um, and I got it from Livewell. You know what? There was a Livewell's really close to my house, and I get kind of tired of natural roots, native roots, native roots,
Native roots,
and
yeah.
so yeah, and so I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go to Livewell, and I've been pleasantly surprised. That's where I got Audrey too. Like Livewell has become my go-to place out of pure laziness, but
But they have
it's
good
got
stuff.
good weed. Yeah, no, they do. I'm very big fan. What are you smoking, Dave?
Yeah, so going back to one of my regulars. I go to Rocky Road quite often. Uh, they don't have a lot of deals, which kind of rubs James the wrong way. But I have to say, man, I'm smoking this Crescendo number 11. It's a hybrid. I like sativas, but they had some really excellent hybrids that they recommended. So I actually went hybrid tonight. So if I fall asleep in about 10 minutes, it was the indica kicking in.
Right, it's
Um,
that indica strand
yeah,
on
but
there.
Rocky Road, man, they have some pretty legit pre rolls. I mean, like 25 to 30% THC. I know, and then Courtney's going to come on next week, who's our resident weed expert. And she's going to say, it's not about the THC, but I mean, their stuff's pretty good. Their THC is pretty high, and it knocks you down pretty good.
Courtney is somebody that I quote on a relatively constant basis about that all the time. It is probably, of everything that we've ever done in any of our shows, it's the one piece of information that I carry along with me and I share on a constant basis.
Yeah, she's a cool chick, and that was,
Are you still there?
good advice. Yeah.
Did I lose Dave, or am I not on the internet?
I hear you.
Oh,
You're
no,
back.
Dave's there.
We're there. Don't worry.
I was like, did I lose Dave, or am I not on the internet? What's going on here? So, yeah, but Courtney, I quote all the time. I'm super excited she's going to be on next week. I forgot. I pay no attention to what's going on next, because I'm so busy paying attention to what the hell's going on in this world. It's so big, I don't even know where the hell to start. So I'm just going to throw a bunch of shit out there. We have a pandemic that has killed over almost 200,000 people. Will probably kill 400,000 people by the end of this year. We have race protesting going on a constant basis. Because cops are killing black people on the street. We have fires that are burning around this country. We had snow in the middle of September. I mean, the world is weird. And I don't know, pick one. Which one do you want to talk about, Dave?
Let's start. Let's get the elephant out of the way. Let's get this pandemic out of the way, because much like me, I just want it to be over with.
Right. Yeah, it's scary though. Fauci even said, like, Fauci's out here talking now that we will not be back to any kind of normal level till the end of 2021, which in my mind, that math kind of works. But it doesn't mean it's not scary.
Yeah. What is normal, though? What is he talking about normal? What's going to be our new normal? What's normal today is not going to be what's normal in 2 weeks, in 2 months. Definitely not by 2021. So that's kind of a misleading statement where you're like, it's going to be back to normal by 2021, but we don't really know what the normal is.
Right, because it's not normal like the way that we've known it be at any time before. So
what is normal? What do you think normal is?
I don't know, man. It's not caring. It's not having to think about things like this. It's being the normal, aloof Americans that we were. Like, listen, and it's so weird to talk about it specifically on September 11th, but there is a dramatic difference unless you lived in the city of New York on September 11th about how that affected this country and about how a pandemic like this has affected this country. And let me make this clear, because I know that's probably like an offensive statement to people, but that fundamentally changed Lower Manhattan and the lives of the people who passed on that. But if you're outside of New York, war actions we've seen before. War actions are normal. They don't normally happen on our soil. That made it a little scarier, but not something that we haven't seen before. This pandemic has killed going on 200,000 people. We don't know how to handle it in this country, and it is fundamentally going to change our way of life. September 11th did not fundamentally change our way of life just because I had to take my shoes off in an airplane. That is not everybody's way of life. This will touch everyone. This will touch everyone in the way that they live. Mask will be a thing going forward. Not a required thing, but a socially engineered thing. This will be something that will happen going forward. I think the new normal is, I think it's confidence, Dave. What's normal? When people are confident to go out, and people aren't confident to go out right now, and rightfully so, when they're truly confident.
Yeah, I'm trying to build that confidence back. Like it's hard because it's like, things are starting to open up, and we've been locked down for so long that anything that opens up, I trust our governor, which is, take that as you will. I trust our governor that has the best scientific information, and he's opening up in the right way. And so, like, when they open up theaters, I went and I've seen a couple movies, which I will definitely be talking about Tenet next week. But restaurants open up. I'll go and visit a restaurant. We're going tomorrow for lunch at a restaurant downtown. Like, I'm feeling confident that we're doing things the right way. But also because I want to support these businesses. I don't want them to go away.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. I'm definitely, and this is where you and I play just slightly different on that, because I won't eat in a restaurant. I have sat outside of a Five Guys on their outside tables, and I've eaten, but I'm big on supporting the local communities. But that's what I mean. The confidence, there will be people who have different levels of confidence, and it makes sense for you because you work out in the world on a pretty regular basis, that the first people who are going to go out and move back to normal, who get that confidence first, should be you guys. I would hope it would be the people who work out there at the moment, because everything that we do from home here. I work from home, my wife works from home.
We're, like you said, but my confidence also comes, like, our circumstances are very different. Like, you are near someone who is sick, and if they were to get COVID, then that would be it. There's nowhere coming back from it. My family is fairly healthy. I'm healthy. So I can be more confident and take a little bit more risk, whereas you have to, your confidence is going to come back later because you have more at risk, I guess, like, for a better term.
Right. Well, and I like to reference everything to Disney, so I'm going to reference it back to my personal experience at Disney. I was at Disney. I was working at Walt Disney World at September 11th. You want to hear my story? I was actually working at Mirrors Transportation and working part-time at Disney World on September 11th, but after September 11th. People don't understand. It took a minute for airlines to fill up. It took a minute for those parks to fill up. Like a good minute. Like when I left Florida, I would say that the parks were at 70% capacity to where they would normally be at that time, purely on shaken confidence after what happened after September 11th. Us getting out and deciding to do things like go to parks in mass numbers in the way that we were used to, going to movie theaters. I mean, was your movie theater packed, Dave, or was it just you?
No, it was probably about 15 people in the big IMAX theater. So,
right.
One, it was snowing. I wonder if that affected it, but actually more people than I figured would be there. I thought, me and my kid would be the only ones there, and there were about 15 people there. It was quiet though. Oh man, I've never been to a movie theater where popcorn's not popping and people are talking and milling around. Soda's getting pumped. Like, that was gone. It was quiet as a library in there.
Wow. Yeah, no, and that's really what it is. It's this change, and we're not done with it yet. You know what I mean? That's the thing that's killer about this pandemic and such a shaker is that we're about to hit flu season. It's going to get of everything that the president had said. The one thing he meant when he talked about warmth, yeah, warm times are better for things like COVID and the flu not to rise, but we didn't complete it before flu season came. So now we're going to deal with the flu and COVID. The numbers are going to get high. We're about to see spikes again. You're about to see us completely revert to maybe not March and April numbers, but I think we're going to be pretty damn close on some of these areas. I think people are going to be very surprised as flu season hits how bad this is going to get again.
Yeah, what's unfortunate is it's going to hit the cold weather cities first because it's going to start driving people inside.
Right.
And it's just going to go down. And right now, the southern half, the warm weather areas, it's eventually, they're still growing right now. They're, amongst the worst in the world. And
Right.
they're still growing. And so when you have the surge that's going to happen from these cold weather cities converging with the warm weather south, it's we're going to see a big ramp up in December, January, especially since there's holidays. People are going to have a false sense of security and start traveling for the holidays, and that's
Right.
just going to make everything worse.
Right. Well, that's the thing. People don't understand, man. Like flus and pneumonia and like colds try to kill us a lot, and they're very successful already. So this argument about COVID-19 not being as dangerous, listen, it's more dangerous than the regular flu, and the regular flu kills us a lot. So we don't need more bacteria, or we don't need more things to fight. And unfortunately, COVID is going to be a fight that I think is going to go on for a long time, regardless.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate because people right now are already at their breaking point, and then add on another 5-6 months onto
Yeah.
that, and making it even worse. People are gonna lose their mind. I mean, this is really scary to think about, and this might even segue to our next topic, man. It's like this is all going to come to a head in November, and
Sure.
the election in November, it's a fucking powder keg, man, and I'm so scared. Even no matter who wins,
Yeah.
it could go either way, and this place could very well explode, and I am scared to death about that.
And yeah, that can absolutely be what we talk about. We can talk about the election. I will say, yeah, COVID is going to be. You're going to see its strength. The middle of the COVID thing is going to happen, like you said, right around election time. We're definitely going to have some questions with vaccines. We're all very close to becoming Jack Torrances, and it's going to become winter, and that's not necessarily a great thing for it, but it's something else that we're just going to have to push through because it's going to be a while. I wouldn't be surprised if we're kind of in the same place June of next year. You know what I mean? Regardless of who gets in. And that's going to, the response to that is going to be a factor, even in the COVID needs, how serious we take it and everything. But there definitely is a powder keg that's about to explode.
And we're sending Mike Santori right into the heart of it. We're kind of assholes that way.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing. We want to see how it is, because the powder keg that's about to explode is. This election is going to emotionally drive a lot of people crazy. It's going to probably emotionally drive me a little crazy, regardless of what happens. I don't necessarily think we're going to go to civil war in the streets about it. I think if Joe Biden wins, and I know I apologize to all of our conservative friends. You're not going to like what I have to say about you. I think if Joe Biden wins, we'll have some smart ass Democrats that will be like, "Oh, see, you all suck, dummies." But I think most of the Democrats would be like, fuck, we're just happy the guy's out. Let's just shut up and just move on through. I think that is an optimal solution because if Trump wins, people are going to be mad. And the people who support Trump are going to be like, fuck you, dude. You saw Trump rules 4 more years. And I think so. I think there are two different. If Trump wins, it's a very, very stressful time. Now, with that said, I think that the House and the Senate will completely go blue. So it doesn't matter. If he wins, he's fucked on that aspect. But I think just emotionally for this country, I think it sets a bad tone about who we are as a country. Quite honestly, if we do it again.
I think what set a bad tone is the fact that after everything that's happened over the last 3 years, the dude is still right around the same level, percentage of people who like him that has not wavered in 3 years, no matter what you throw at him. All this shit. And when he fucking said that he can go out and shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, that dude wasn't fucking around. You know, it sounded like a joke, but he wasn't fucking around, man. I mean, his people don't give a shit about what's going on.
No.
Hopefully there are, some more of the fringe, not really the fringe, like the more mainstream conservatives bordering on independence. Hopefully they, spin off into like libertarian territory or even Biden.
Right. Bless you. Yeah. All right. I was the one who took the hit. Why are you sneezing so much? That's crazy. But I think people are going to vote for Biden. And I was wrong about Trump. I will take it. I will give it 100%. Like Halloween 2016, I'm telling this lady in Las Vegas, there's no way the American people would vote for Donald Trump. And 4 days later, I was like, well, fuck. I was completely wrong about that.
Everybody was, man.
Yeah.
He thought he was going to lose. Yeah. And I don't know. I'm really nervous about this election because, just how it's being attacked at all levels. Like the credibility is already being attacked for no reason other than because these guys are in a bad spot. And so they want to question it now and set the stage for, arguing it against for the Supreme Court or like saying like these are invalid results because there's massive voter fraud when, the numbers just don't support it. I mean, since 2006, there was like over 2 billion votes cast and only 43 prosecuted instances of voter fraud that were like intentional voter fraud. And so that's like, 0.000000043 of a chance that our election is going to be rigged or, these are going to be fraudulent forms.
But isn't our election rigged anyhow? Listen, of the past 7 elections, the Republicans lost the popular vote in 6 of them. And they maintained the presidency for 3 of those. So our elections are already rigged. It's not a representative democracy. We all know that because it's a republic. But the way that it's got played out, listen, you ask me right now, will Donald Trump win the election on November? I'm like, I don't know. Will he win the popular vote? No, fuck no. He's nowhere near winning the popular vote. And how do we live in a country where the popular vote, where a majority of people who decided to vote, and let this be a promotion to vote. I don't give a shit if you vote for Donald Trump. I don't give a shit if you vote for Joe Jorgensen. I don't give a shit if you vote for Joe Biden. But for God's sakes, go out and vote, because if you don't vote, you are not dealing in the representative type of government that you want. And so I personally believe if everybody voted, then we get who we wanted to get, and we would become a better country on that. I don't know if that would be Trump. I personally don't think it would be. I think Biden would win by a landslide if everybody voted, but everybody, I don't care who you vote for, vote. We got to do it every time.
Yeah, and it's super important. The last election was really won and lost by people not voting. And sure, both candidates had really low like likability factors, but those few million people, if we would have gotten even 1% of those people who didn't vote, it would have swung the election. Especially in states like Michigan and Wisconsin, Ohio, like the amount of people who voted for Obama versus who voted for Clinton was like way down. Like they just didn't vote this time around, and that was it. Like he won 10,000 votes in Wisconsin or Michigan. I mean, and you have 35,000 people who didn't vote in this election. I mean, it would have swung the entire election, just that one state.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody votes count. This is in elections like this, everybody's vote counts.
Right, and you get the government that you want by voting, and so that's why I said I don't care who you vote for. Let it be. If it has to be Trump, let it be Trump. I don't know why you would. Listen, and let me say this: if Trump was right now hosting the Celebrity Apprentice, I would be watching that shit. I loved when Trump hosted the Celebrity Apprentice. This is not a personal affront to Trump as a person. He is somebody that has been tabloid fodder since I was a child, as long as I can remember. Sometimes he was obnoxious. Sometimes he was fun, as most obnoxious people are. He was fun on The Apprentice. He was fun when he showed up in Home Alone 2. He was fun when he showed up in songs. He created such a actually smart brand that he had set until he ran for president. Every problem I have with Trump has entirely to do with what he's done as president of the United States. This is not a personal vendetta against somebody who I really enjoyed on The Apprentice. I thought he was great. This is a problem because of how I believe our country was planned to be run and how I believe he's run it. And I really feel like he's been like a little nymph just running around our dam of a government and being like, hey, what is this, a hole? And then he just pokes a hole in it and a hole starts going through and people have to chase. If nothing else, at the end of his term, the flaws in the systems, the holes, we see it now. On both sides, the right and the left, things that we've let go for way too long. That's why this is a consequential election, because the country is fundamentally going to change after this election. The difference is I don't think Donald Trump truly has a plan. I think he's just poking holes in a dam. I think Joe Biden has a plan. Is it a perfect plan? No, but it's not wishing. It's voting. You don't get perfect.
Yeah, I would call Joe Biden vanilla ice cream.
Yeah,
because like sometimes you just need some vanilla ice cream. He's not going to ruffle feathers. Is he the most exciting guy I know? But he is bland. And right now, the country needs bland. This country needs somebody who will take some leadership. And he may not be Obama when he speaks, but he'll say it with sincerity. He'll give direction. He'll have a plan. Whether the plan is a perfect plan or not, probably won't be perfect. But there's so many holes that he has to fill that not everything is going to be perfect.
Right.
But he's not offensive. He's just bland vanilla ice cream. And right now, I could really go for some vanilla ice cream.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think that's a perfect representation of Joe. I think, and he's compassionate, and I think he can sympathize with people. And, we don't want this to be just a promoting Joe, but clearly we supported Joe. We support Joe on this thing, not because he's a Democrat, but because he's exactly who we need right now. And so there you go. You got our political biases out of the way. But no, I think he's sympathetic, and I think that's what the country needs right now to a certain degree. I think, but things will change. Things will fundamentally change, and let's discuss that. Let's remove the Donald out of this. we are discussing some things that have established themselves over this year that we need to look at, and we're gonna play futurist for a minute, Dave.
This
So
is a
that's the
James
fun.
Games.
It's a mini game. It's a mini game.
By the way, check out James's games on our YouTube channel. It was great.
Yeah, that was fun. I'm looking forward to the next one. It's going to be a good one. So we're going to play a little bit of futurist because there are problems that Donald Trump either created, exposed, or just somebody else created. He either exposed it or created it. The virus and our ability to respond to that is one. This country has healthcare has it's been showing now that like healthcare is something that we are in a very bad place for in this country. If anything serious happens, you know what I mean? Like, if anything serious happens, we're fucked. In normal everyday life, where like some people scrape their knees and little sickness here and there, only some of the population is fucked. But something big, we're all fucked. And so, what do you think? Where are we going to end up with this? Because it's something that I don't care if it's Trump or Biden. Somebody's going to have to address this in the next year. Healthcare can't continue going on as it is in this country.
No, especially when a lot of these COVID medical bills start coming due. You're going to start seeing some major foreclosures. You're going to start seeing massive debt going up. So they're going to have to fix healthcare. And I think if the pendulum swings one way, I think the groundwork will be laid for a nationalized healthcare system. But if the pendulum swings the other way, it's going to basically be what we have right now. It's not going to change whatsoever.
Right. Yeah, no, but it may be something, and it's not because it's a Republican swing. I honestly think if you have the right Republican in there and this problem happened, they would be making a healthcare push. Republicans used to care about the healthcare push. They did for years and years and years, pretty much until Hillary brought it up in 1994. Republicans are like, we need to take care of healthcare, and then she was like, and they're like, no, fuck you, Hillary. we hate healthcare.
Yeah, but that's not really the direction that they're going. I mean, Trump has set what's important to them is law and order and immigration. Everything else is on the back burner. So they might have been the party of healthcare, but it's not something that is important to them right now.
No, but it is something that's going to have to be addressed.
Yeah. And that's just my opinion, of course. And I'm a very opinionated person, and that's just where I see it stands.
I think it's going to be. I'm going to play another little futurist part of this. Here's what I don't think the right understands, to a degree. Here's a prediction that I'll have. If I'm correct, and we win the House and the Senate, which I do believe we will, pretty evenly, we run into a situation where we almost have enough votes to evict him, but it almost seems like the worst thing to happen, and I don't think the right understands this, is if we start passing bills that are overwhelmingly popular to the American people, Donald Trump never has to run again. Okay? So these Democrat socialist bills that are overwhelmingly popular right at this time, he will sign. He will sign with a big, stupid Donald Trump signing ceremony, but we don't care because he's not concerned about setting it up for Don Jr. or Ivanka or anything. He pretends like he is, but he couldn't give a fuck. If he really got in there and we had a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate, and they start passing popular bills and putting them on his desk, he will turn on a dime and start signing those bills because he doesn't really care. He doesn't care about anything. And it makes him popular. If people clap, think about it. That's all he wants. If people clap, if people are like, New York Times is like, fuck yeah, Donald Trump signs stimulus bill that gives everybody health care that the Democrats passed through. And Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer would be like, yeah, Donald, take all the credit. We don't give a fuck. I'm just saying, don't vote for him on that aspect. But there is a 60%. I'd go as far as say there's a 60% chance that I'm right about that. He can't run again. He's really old. He just loves when people love him. And if the small group who loved him before hate him now, he doesn't give a fuck, and he doesn't believe they'll hate him. He believes he already has them. So when he switches to this liberal signing all their bills, he just thinks they'll go along with him. And who knows? Maybe they will. They go along with some crazy shit. They do. They go along with some crazy shit. Something else that needs to be addressed, and I'm going to throw it over to you on this one, Dave.
All right.
We have a mortgage and a rental crisis in this country. And they've said, oh, you don't have to pay your rent this month. You don't have to pay your mortgage this month. Okay, that's great. There will come a point, be January, be it June of next year, people are going to get that note from their landlord, mortgage company, lender, that says, hey, glad that you made it through COVID. You owe us $14,326. What do we do? What do we do? And it's a broader question because not everybody's working. Not everybody can work. Universal basic income, when Yang showed up in the end of last year, it's July 2019. Yang's like, hey, Yang, let's do universal basic income. And us Democrats are like, oh, yeah, we've talked about it, man, but come on, really. It's been a year, and here's where we are. What happens, Dave? Are we going to wipe out that debt? Are we going to give some universal basic income? How do you maintain not only a poverty class, but a middle class?
Wow, that's a pretty deep question there. I wasn't quite prepared for that. So everything depends on what happens on November 4th. So if the House and the Senate go blue, then emergency, the first couple weeks will be some sort of rental insurance or mortgage assistance or rental assistance. If like I said, the pendulum swings the other way, then that's not a priority. And people are just going to let folks get kicked out on the street. So what happens after that? I love the idea of a basic income. It's worked really well in some European countries. But it comes down to there's going to be so much opposition, calling it, more socialism. And that's still a forbidden word around these parts. And so it won't happen anytime soon. I'm talking like decades, couple decades.
Really? You don't think it'll happen?
I don't think it's going to happen. But I'm going to use this pendulum analogy. So our government is like a constantly swinging pendulum. Right. Sometimes it hits its apex where you have the Donald Trumps of the world, and then it starts to go back towards the center. So you have folks like Jimmy Carter or Ronald Reagan, and then it starts going up, and you have Bill Clinton. And so it keeps going up higher and higher. And so now we hit the apex on the right, and we're about to swing back. And so Joe Biden is kind of like that middle of the pendulum. And then as soon as it goes up, it's going to be someone who is equal to Donald Trump, but in a more progressive way. So, you're going to see your AOC, someone who is super progressive is going to be the next Democratic president after Biden. And that's just how it goes. And then it's going to start swinging back the other way.
I would agree. I think Biden will go. If Biden wins, he'll go in and have the most progressive agenda of any. He already has the most progressive platform of any Democrat in history. I think you're going to get a lot of heat from the far left on that. I've got to be honest, because they like credit, and it's going to really piss them off that Joe Biden gets credit for this. They're going to be like, "Fuck Biden! Why did it have to be Biden? It was Bernie's to be or AOC's down." But I don't know. I disagree with you on universal basic income. I have to say, I think it happens quick. I don't think they have an option. I don't think they have an option. Jobs aren't coming back as quickly. People aren't going to go back out as quickly. Whole companies are shutting down. You know what I mean? Like, the end of this will dramatically affect our retail market and the way that we used to do jobs and everything. I think universal basic income, and I think it won't be the universal basic income as a forever thing when it first comes out. But I think what you will see is a bailout of the American people. I think if Joe Biden gets in there, and this is what Republicans are scared of, and we're gonna discuss this. We're gonna get into this part of it because I want to know what you think. But this is what they're scared of. We are going to bail out the American people. We are going to give people enough money to help rebuild their lives, as we did for auto industries, as we did for airline industries, as we did for the train system, as we did for numerous different points in this country. We're going to do it to the American people. I think it'll start with a year of so much a month for the people to get back on their feet. But it creates a fear, and this is what I want to ask you about, Dave. What do you think of this fear? Like the fear of somebody not working, the fear that, let's say everybody gets $1,500 a month. You decide to keep working, but somebody else is like, you know what, man, I can live on $1,500 a month. I'm just not going to work. And it's the fear that you're paying for that guy. What do you think of that fear? Is it a legitimate fear in your mind, really? Is it something that really, how much are you really paying for that guy to live that month? As a individual taxpayer, like 0.000000001% of that $1,500 he's getting a month? What do you think of that fear? What do you think of the right's fear of that?
I don't have much fear because what kind of quality of life are you going to have in this country where inflation is occurring at ever increasing levels? That $1,500, you're not going to have a high quality of life, and it's shown that people who right now who are on food stamps and welfare, they're working their ass off. They're having multiple jobs, and they still need government assistance just to put food on the table, heat in their house. So I'm not concerned about that whatsoever. There's going to be people who take advantage of it, and then that's going to be balanced by the person who is working extra hard. It's all a balance.
But that's a fear. That's their fear. What do you think about that? I was kind of wondering, like, what do you think? What drives that part of their fear? What do you think really drives that part of their fear of, like, fuck, that guy's going to get something that he didn't work for?
What drives that fear? I don't really know. I think it's all mindset. Like, hey, I'm doing it the right way and they're doing it the wrong way, but they don't see, like, this person, is struggling.
Right. And
they don't see that aspect. They just see, like, this guy's not working, but they don't know what the situation is. Yeah. I really don't understand where the fear is, and I don't understand why people are, like, really coming down on folks with, like, SNAP benefits. It's not like, this single mom is fucking buying steaks and shit for her kids. I mean, why do they need to take a piss test? Like, there's more coked out people in Congress than there are on welfare right now.
Right. Yeah. No. So I think that's what we're going to see. I think that's going to be something they're going to have to focus on going forward. Let's shift slightly away from politics and let's talk about act of God. Let's talk about, fire, global warming is something that we are dealing with every single year, whether or not people like to admit it. This is not how we grew up. We grew up in Colorado, Dave. If it's 1984 and you're going into Halloween, how serious of a winter are you looking at in the 1980s? Almost every winter in the 1980s.
Oh, dude, we always had to buy the Halloween costumes a size bigger because we always wore over snowsuits. It was always snowing,
right,
all the time, and that wasn't the first snowfall either.
No. And it stayed. It was a winter season, and the one time I really noticed it is when I lived in Jersey for a while, which still has a very winter season. It snows. There's snow on the ground for like months, which is what it used to be like in Colorado. It used to be like we would have snow on the ground for quite some time because it would keep snowing. We would constantly have snow and bigger, longer storms. And when I came back from Jersey, I was like, "What? How weird! Do we only get 3 storms a season here in Colorado of snow that lasts for like 2 days?" So yeah, global warming is another thing that when we talk about current events, this is a fucking current event, like global warming.
This is more of an issue than the pandemic, the election, all that shit combined, because this is setting the course for our civilization going forward. And the effects of global warming, when I went back to school and I studied science, my expertise, I guess, was climate change. And so this is a subject I'm very passionate about. I mean, it's so aggravating that people are still denying the effects of climate change. And for what? There's literally no reason why people shouldn't embrace climate change, because there are so many trillions of dollars within green technologies, going away from fossil fuels and building green technologies. I mean, there's millions upon millions of jobs. There's trillions of dollars into our economy, and we're saving the environment. And I just don't understand why people are fighting it.
Right. It's something that will have to be addressed. These are all things that are laying out. Like, I think a lot of stuff that was supposed to happen over 20 years or 30 years, we're going to have to address in the next year. And climate change, that fires, man, there are 2 problems with fires. 1, we start way too many fires of our own. And 2, we put out way too many fires that we shouldn't.
Absolutely. And you can see in Colorado the effects of climate change, because the winters are not getting cold enough in the mountains. And so the pine beetle is just devastating all these forests. And that's a direct correlation with climate change. It's just not getting cold enough, long enough up there anymore. And so the pine beetles are just taking over the forest. And so one little spark, man, and it just ignites. And we are having some massive fires here in Colorado. Thankfully, it snowed. Really fucking strange. It's still summer in Colorado, and it snowed like 3 inches at my place. I mean, I just don't understand what people are holding back for.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Yeah, the snow was really strange. It's 2020 has been a tough year. And let's kind of close it down a little bit with like something fun but not fun. The pop culture that you and I like. What do you think that this year has done to our pop culture as far as like television and movies and the way we intake them? And what do you expect to see in pop culture 2 years from now, which would be a kind of representation of now? What do you think? I mean, you get what I'm talking about. Movies, TV,
Yeah.
What do you think?
So I think 2020 is going to be forever known for the Zoom show like ours.
Right.
I mean, everything is done on Zoom or whatever, Microsoft Teams or whatever it is. Everything from like the late shows to the Today Show to your morning news, everything is on Zoom. And so it's going to be known for the Zoom show. And it's also going to be known for some big losses, man. Chadwick Boseman was a real big loss. And now it just, the whole year's been full of them.
It has been. And I think it's going to be known as the year that killed theaters as we know it. I know you hate to hear that, but I think it kills it. I think theaters will exist in some fashion, but I'm going to say theaters will not exist in the fashion that they did before. And Disney Plus nudged along the way. I don't know the numbers for Mulan yet, but I bet you it's a shit ton of money, enough where they're like, why would we release this in theaters?
Yeah, and I definitely think that theaters as we know it, they're going away for sure.
Yeah.
And so why would you release a Bill and Ted into a theater and pay all those millions of dollars in marketing when you could just send it straight to your house and you pay $20? So the movie theaters are literally going to be for superhero movies and big ass Christopher Nolan movies and Ridley Scott movies and Steven Spielberg movies. It's not going to be a bunch of different types of movies. It's going to be blockbuster after blockbuster, and that's all you're going to see at the theaters. And all the other stuff, the indie movies, the more introspective pieces, the documentaries, they're just going to go straight to your house. And there'll be some art houses here and there, but those are going to pretty much go away too.
And I think that you'll see Disney. I think the weird thing about Disney is I think they'll kind of split it up. I think they'll have a tier system. Like Avengers movies, for the most part, get released in theaters. But Black Widow movies, I don't know. You know what I mean?
That movie looks good, though. That movie looks good.
But I think it does. But I think they may just put it out on Disney Plus. You know what I mean? Dude,
I would pay money for that, for sure.
Yeah. And that's probably where they look at it. Like, we're going to put Black Panther 2 once we figure out what we're going to do with the story in the theater. But Black Widow, we will start on streaming service. And I think that's a model that's going to look weird in the future.
Yeah. I think there's got to be something done with the price of the movies, though. Like, I'm not going to watch Mulan. I could care less about Mulan for $30. $5.99. Yeah, I do care about Mulan for $5.99. I don't care enough about Bill and Ted for $20, but I do care about it for $5.99. So I think that as it evolves, that they should have like a rent for 24 hours for $10 or buy it for $20. So have an option for people like me who, they want to see it, but they don't want to buy it. They just want to see it for the night. I think that they're missing on some potential revenue that way.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, and I can see that that's a level of price point. There are things that I want to see. Listen, I haven't paid to see Mulan yet. I haven't. And I, partially because of the login situation with my Disney Plus, that I don't remember everything, and I don't want to go through that pain in the assness of like rechanging my password. And I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I'll just leave it where it is. But too, because I like you, I'm excited to see Mulan, but it's not something that I'm rushing out to see. It would be a lot different. Listen, Beauty and the Beast was my favorite animated movie that Disney has pretty much ever done. And so to see the live action was important for me. I probably would have paid for it. I would have paid for an Avengers. I'd pay to see Black Widow even. So, but I haven't paid for Mulan, and I may or may not. As the weeks go on, the closer I am to it being free is weighed out against the fartherness of how much it is to rent it. And it became how I rent things off of like Xfinity, those kind of movies. Like,
I'm right there with you. And the thing about these Disney movies too is they're not getting real good reviews, and so they're kind of taking like Mulan, even as big as it is, kind of didn't get the greatest reviews. And then the kids movie that they put out right beforehand, like Artemis Fowl, maybe it was, got horrible reviews. I mean, they're not really getting really terribly good reviews on these. So maybe they're putting the stuff that they know is not going to test real well. They're going to put that on the Disney Plus, but they're like A+ stuff they'll send to the theaters.
Sure. And it depends on how they look at it. And that's what I mean, the tier system of their movies. You'll see that. Dave, is there anything else that, like, on current events that you specifically wanted to talk about?
Man, I have not. We have talked about so much stuff.
Right?
Oh, I think I will say, because I am an author with audiobooks, 2020 is the year of the audiobook. This is the year where audiobooks became like mainstream, and as an author with audiobooks out there, I am very excited for that.
What audiobooks, Dave? Where could we find said audiobooks?
You can find my audiobooks on Audible. It is The Race Through Space by David Hawk, as well as The Christmas Roast by David Hawk, voiced by Trevor Wilson.
Awesome. That was a good promo, and that was a great segue. And with that, it feels like it's perfect. I agree with you. I think people still go out and go with books, but libraries are still kind of iffy because of COVID and everything. People have gotten much more comfortable listening to audiobooks.
Yeah,
I listened to this one about the Mickey's 10 Commandments. Of course, everything I listen to is about Disney. So, and their business practices. I'm like, oh yes, tell me more about your business practices. You think it would be like something more magical, but I'm like, oh, so you signed a contract in 1983, then you sold most of your shares, and Roy bought them back. So I don't know. I have a weird connection with that company. Let's do some promos. Let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about what we're doing. We're not go in real depth before we get off the show. Let's just kind of talk, because we have, since we started about a year ago, a little over a year ago, we just had our year anniversary show. We've done a lot. Dave's just got another book out. You've had 2 books out since we started, right?
Yeah, I've had 2 books and 2 short stories that I published since we started. And I have a 3rd book that's already written.
See? So, we've got those going out. We've got a shit ton of shows now. You know what I mean? We built really once we expanded it out, and we like to do the podcast show because Dave and I like to smoke a lot of weed, and we like to talk about things after we smoke weed. But we're so much more than just 2 stoner dudes, and we can't smoke weed on all the shows. But we've definitely expanded out, and we've got more shows. We got a website. I mean, things are popping off. Don't you feel like, Dave?
Oh man, you straight killed it on the website. So I have to give you some huge props on that. What's really cool is that we have shows on our network now that have nothing to do with us, which is pretty cool. And we have some diversity in here. We have women talking. We have a show with the women. The Reality Bites is great. I mean, diversity. Right. We're so woke. What can I say?
Yeah, no, totally. And it's fun. This is what we want to do. We like the idea of people being able to express themselves, being able to promote their shit, and people who just are creative people. And yeah, we do. We have Santori is doing. We're so glad Santori now moved into this visual format. It's a very funny show. It's probably, ego aside, is probably our most popular live watch show that we actually have on there, and I actually cross promote him on less channels. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I mean, we're very thankful that we have Santori on our network. He's bringing a lot of fans with him. I mean, he's very popular, and he's a hell of a good dude, so we're very lucky to have him on our network. And he kind of leading into I know what you want to announce, but it's, he's a good dude, and so we have some really cool shit coming up for Mr. Santori.
Yeah, no, we're definitely go check out the Truckee Pacific page. I think it's shared on Mile High Podcast as well. But it's the Santori project, you heard us talk about it. Go back and listen to some of our old audio files. It's coming out. It's going to be in a little different form than we initially thought, but this is going to be something that is worth your time to look at, and it's going to be more in a I almost want to say movie form or a series form. It's gonna feel different than this. It won't be this. It won't be us talking to the camera. If you want to see Santori talk to the camera, though, he still does that Wednesday nights, but it won't be this. It'll be something different than that. But we got a lot of this too. We're talking reality shows. Dave, you're bringing back the review show, right?
Yeah, I'm actually bringing it back. It's going to be me and my kid. And so we're going to go through just some movies. Like we went and saw Tenet. I was talking about, and I'll definitely review that with him, because we both are very polar on Tenet. We're very polar opposite on what we liked about that movie or didn't like. So we're going to bring that back. And then we'll talk about some 80s movies. I'm going to make him watch some of my old movies like The Wizard and Labyrinth, movies like that, and review those.
Have him watch Return to Oz. That's on Disney Plus. That's a messed up movie.
All right. That'll be on our agenda.
Have you seen Return to Oz?
I have not. I heard it was creepy.
Oh, yeah. You should both watch Return to Oz and review that. I challenge you on that.
Maybe you and I can do that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, yeah, maybe we'll do a live stream one night where everybody watches Return to Oz. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It was a political show. Sorry that it was, but we had to talk about it a little bit because things are important to talk about right now. But if you want to know more about us, go to truckingpacific.com. It has all the information that you need to know about us. I don't have that piece of paper that I normally have in front of me, Dave, so I don't know what else our emails are, but they're all on Trucking Pacific.
It's the Mahai podcast at gmail.com, as well as truckingpacific at gmail.com. And we're doing all this shit. We're coming up. We got a Centauri project coming. But right now we're doing it all for free, and I want to get paid for this. I didn't start a podcast, and we didn't start a production company because we like doing it for free, man. We want you to help pay for us. So if you can go to at Truckee Pacific 303, that's our Venmo. Just throw us a couple bucks, and we're gonna have a fundraiser here in the next month or so because we want to upgrade some of our equipment and our software, and we want to get Centauri on the road so we can start filming Centauri projects. So at Truckee Pacific 303, that's our Venmo.
There you go. We should have a commercial. I'm going to make a commercial. I made a lot of other things. I'm just going to make one about
Pacific.
Give us money.
Give us money.
But that's how you get to keep seeing stuff like this, and we can make it better. Imagine if it was better. Imagine how much you like it right now, as shitty as it is. Imagine if it was better.
Yeah, and weed is expensive, man. Weed is very expensive, and we're working that shit out. So pay for our weed. For anything, there you go. Pay for our weed.
Right? It was all an elaborate plan, but we still ain't got that weed paid for yet, or that sponsorship where they just send us weed. But it's coming. But that's how you get a hold of us. There's our Venmo. Go to truckingpacific.com. Like, share, subscribe. There are probably
buttons. The bell. Hit subscribe. Hit the notification thing.
One of these places.
Yeah, you guys are young kids. You're smart. You know technology. You know all this shit.
You're proficient on the YouTube. All right, that is it. We will be back next week with special guest Courtney Gunn and somebody else that I don't know who our fourth person will be, but we'll see. And we're going to be talking about cartoons. And the week after that, we go to James's Games, and the week after that, maybe we have stand-up. Who knows? But definitely, we got things going the next 2 weeks. Dave, always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, it was good talking to you. I know it was a little bit more of a serious show, but that's what we do. We're not pigeonholed into one specific type of show. So sometimes we have to talk about shit like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes that's just what the world needs us to do. All right, everybody, thank you. Good night.
Have a good night, guys.
This has been a Truckee Pacific production. For sponsorship inquiries and comments, go to the Mile High Podcast at gmail.com.